Rachel Bitecofer just laid something out that 2024, and I'm admittingly not putting as much focus on it as I should have, but you said some things today that made me sit up, Rachel Bitecofer, and lean in as well. 2024, Trump, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, one of them wins the presidency. What's the game plan?
I think this is very clear, and I think we have to believe people when they show us who they are. When we're talking about a party that tried to overthrow the government, didn't apologize, and then obstructed the justice in it, they're using the committee process to investigate the investigators for their own crimes to obstruct justice. So we need to take these people seriously. And what I would expect to happen pretty quickly is conversation about how they do everything they do is projection and gaslight. So keep in mind as I make their argument that that's what I'm presenting their logic. So what they're going to argue is that there's a big deep state conspiracy, that the bureaucracy has been invaded by Democrats and socialists and woke left mobbed, right? And there already is conversation amongst the like lower end of the media sphere for the Republican orbit about repealing the Civil Service Protection Act. Okay. Now, granted, you would think, okay, well, they have to have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency to do anything radical. Well, number one, if a Republican president wins, it's almost certain that they would coattail, what political scientists call coattails, control of both of those chambers. The House map is very favorable to Democrats if Biden wins and is performing well, but it could easily flip the other way. And the Senate is going to be a real lift. So if they were to be able to pick up the trifecta under, say, a President DeSantis, under a mandate that they'd be riding from winning power, it would be very similar to how the Third Reich came about. The Nazis didn't seize power. They won it democratically and then used that power quickly to change and consolidate their power so that nobody could question their authority. And one of the ways that they did that, frankly, was to make certain parts of the Reichstag there, which is their parliament, illegal. So they banned all the communists from being in the parliament, came after some of the political parties. And once you had control, they had control of the parliament, they passed the Enabling Act, and people get stuck on that part. Hey, well, the German Reichstag voted in the Enabling Act after the Reichstag fire to, empower Hitler, but they leave out the part, yeah, but that is not a vote that could have passed if they had not arrested all the communists. And back then in Nazi Germany and in the 1920s and 30s, both communism and fascism as political movements were fairly robust. And in Germany, communism wasn't some, fake rhetorical gaslight buzz word that Republicans used to win political debates. There was a real robust communist movement. It was, coming within 10, 15 years of the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia. Communism was being put forward as a viable alternative to capitalism. And there was a real fight in Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, as to which direction or which system to pursue. So, it's really important for people to understand our parchments, our laws, and bills can protect us only so long as the people that are tasked with enforcing, protecting, and abiding by them agree with the norms of not overstretched power. And what we've seen with Republicans, especially in terms of how they're running the House of Representatives this time, we've never had a House run like this. We've never had a speaker controlled by extremist elements of the party. They've always been more at the mercy or the needs of their what we call marginal members, the members that won in the swing races that make up the majority. This is a completely inverse scenario where McCarthy is really much more beholden to the MAGA base than he is to the much smaller portion of moderate Republicans that are left out there. And it would not take a lot for a president to find an excuse. I think it would be a national emergency, something along those lines that the Germans used to start needling away at our federal protections. And frankly, the court is very bad. The situation in the Supreme Court and the federal courts from all these Trump appointees is bad. but it has actually worked out to be not enough. Donald Trump didn't realize that when he tried to do a coup, right? They were able to infiltrate a lot of the justice system with unqualified justices. The Supreme Court justices are very ideological, but they have still sided on the norms of institutionalism and constitutional design in terms of cases like, should Trump's tax records be released, executive privilege claims, other things like that. We could see a scenario where, under another Republican president, they're appointing justices that don't have the same regard for the Constitution. And it's just very easy. And another thing I'll point to is federalism. So people think, well, we have the federal government, we have all these state governments, we've got blue states, and we'll never go along with any of this. Well, the Nazis in Germany had a solution for that too. And what it was to revoke federalism. They basically kept the state system, so the administrative components of states, because it's very hard to run a large country. You need desegmentation into states, but they solved their problem by centralizing all the state governors under Third Reich. So the orders came from centralized Berlin, from the federal government, and they were administered down through these Third Reich state governors. And that's certainly something that we could see here. Obviously, we're talking about apocalyptic scenarios, right? And scenarios that I don't imagine the other half of America would take sitting down. So that's also potentially bad. We want to make sure that we do everything we can to put the Republican Party down in this 2024 cycle and force it to have a come to Jesus moment. It needs a reset. It's a reset that can only happen internally. And the only way to deliver that reset is for rejection, a strong rejection out of the ballot box. We already saw after this disruption of the blue wave in 2022 that smart Republicans like Mitch McConnell, who's evil but smart, quite understood why they lost, that it's this extremism that Democrats are highlighting and making other people aware of that extremism now. And they got a big assist of that with the reversal of Roe v. Wade. But I think that there is an element of the Republican Party would love to triangulate right now. They would like to put Trump behind. And although they're still always going to have all of the Republican character traits that Democrats dislike and hate, they're still institutionalists that believe in the rule of law and the constitutional order, right? So, anything that we can do to help keep the power of the federal bureaucracy away from the Republican Party, why they continue to be talking openly about national divorce and using the power of the House to obstruct justice into their own crimes, is probably pretty prudent, especially when you consider how much of their rhetoric is really designed to promote this idea that white people are under attack by efforts to address racism.
Well, we're going to have you keep coming back to beat the drum, to beat the drum, to beat the drum. And I'm going to do a better job of not opening the doors to have these conversations, albeit valid, that will undermine the efforts in 2024 because too much is at stake.